Hi everyone, it's Lindy on from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I'm kind of reimagining our matchbook template and envelope set. And this was inspired by the current Art Impressions blog challenge, which is to case a card. And if you're not sure what that means, it's basically you can copy and share what you see someone else has created. So it's a really fun way to get inspired, to create something of your own by being inspired by someone else's project or card. I do find in the crafting world, everybody is so willing to share their ideas and what they've done and how they've done it, and anything new that we learn, we love to share. In this case, I have cased Renee on our design team. I've cased her card. She created this cute little scene with the matchbook template, and I thought, wow, I wish I had thought of that. I thought that was such a cute idea. So I thought I would kind of honor her because I know she loves the bees. So I thought I would use the bee set today and case her card, which I will have photos of in the Art Impressions blog and also on my blog as well. So if you'd like to see what Renee did, you could check that out really quickly if you want to go over there. So let's get started with the honeybee stamp set from Art Impressions, and this is just so cute. You have the little hives and you have tons of little tiny bees. You've got some pretty florals and some really nice coordinating sentiments, and you also have that cute little honeycomb. So it does come with the coordinating dies. Let's go ahead and start our stamping. I've grabbed this little beehive for today's project, and I'm using the Versafine Onyx Black ink. And then I've also grabbed some flowers and all of the bees. I think there's, 6 different bees, which I really love because they're all moving in different directions. Gives you a lot of movement to your cards. And then I'll stamp some extras of those flowers. I'll start off with the tea rose on the cheeks of all of the bees, and then for the face I'll use the flesh color. I'm using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, and I'll be listing those colors in the upper left hand corner as we're going along. And then for all of the wings, I'm going to use the haze blue. This will just give a pretty little shadow to the wings, and then I'll just blend that out to white right at the edges. With yellow and bright yellow, we'll do the body on the bees, and I'm going to do obviously every other section. And then I'll use cool gray number 6 to do the areas that would be black. And if you watch my videos, you know that I don't tend to go to the black. I'll go to a really dark gray. The black sometimes in the zigs has a little bit of a purplish tint to it, so I go to those cool grays. With yellow and scarlet red, I'm going to do the flowers, and I'll put a little bit of yellow down. I'll put the scarlet red down at the same time, and then I'll just blend that out. You can certainly do one color at a time if you prefer, and you can also use a water brush here if you find that easier. So whatever you find the easiest. We did stamp onto some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, so with that paper you can do your watercoloring or your zigs or your tombos, whatever you like to use. Then with green gray, I thought I'd go with a little bit of a different green here. So with the green gray, I'm going to kind of add that to the stems just a little bit and do some blending. So some really simple coloring. And I will color all the rest of those flowers off camera, but I did them all the exact same way. So now with beige and mid brown, we'll do this little honeycomb, or this little beehive I should say, and I'll add the beige first and a little bit of the mid brown, and then I'll kind of blend in towards the center. We'll add some shadowing to this. Now I do have some pattern paper in mind already that I'll show you a little bit later on. So that's kind of why I picked that green gray color for the leaves, and that's why I'm going to add a little pop of a red to this beehive. So I did kind of look over some of my papers before I got started and made that selection, so I will show you that here shortly. I'm adding a little shadowing, And then going back again to that cool gray number 6 for that dark black inside the little beehive, I'm going to place that cool gray sort of along the left-hand side and then pull it off towards the right. And here's where I'm going to grab that geranium red, and that will coordinate with the paper that I've chosen. So this will just frame the opening and really give us that nice pop of color. I really love that with these other colors. I'm going to that green gray to do the roof on my little beehive. And then for the base of it, I'm going to use that same color. And I didn't introduce a lot of colors. Again, I'm kind of going by that pattern paper that I had previously selected. And I didn't want to add a lot of color. I pretty much just wanted to stay in this basic color palette. So I'm going to take my dies and I'm going to tape those down with a little bit of Post-it tape. That's just a temporary tape to hold those in place. And I've got my Spellbinder Scout machine, and this is perfect for running through some of these smaller images. Now this set also has this little vine, and I'm going to just quickly color that in. I die cut it out of the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm grabbing that green gray again and my blender pen, and I'm just going to do a really quick blending of this color. This is so we have something to hang that little beehive or that little nest onto. And then here I'm just darkening up those edges just a little bit and blending that out. And I'm trying to get those edges as well. I don't want them to be too white. So once I had all of those pieces die cut and colored in, let's go ahead and set those aside. Next, I want to add a fence. So I've got the Watercolor Arbor set. We're going to grab that fence, but it also has that really pretty lamppost and this beautiful arbor. So this is just a die set, so I'm going to die cut that fence. I'm using some black 100-pound cardstock, and I'm running it through my Spellbinder Scout machine. I love this little machine. It's quick and easy to use. It's very lightweight. So I ran 2 of those through. Now, as you know, if you watch my videos, you know that I love these matchbooks, and you need this template die set to create the base for your matchbook. And it does come with several other items. It's got a little area there you can put a sentiment. It's got a few rugs. It's got that little easel for the back, a few different window shapes, and a few little icons as well. And then you also, if you want to put this in an envelope, you need the matchbook envelope die set, and this will perfectly fit your little matchbook. It comes with an additional bow, a tag, and a little mini envelope. So you do need that matchbook template set to create your base. So here's that pattern paper that I described to you before, and that's from the Easter paper pack, and that again is from Art Impressions. So you can see it has a little bit of red in it. Now I'm trying to decide which side I want to be the outside of my matchbook and which one I want to be the inside. So I did decide that the outside of my matchbook would be this pretty floral pattern paper. So I'm going to tape the die directly onto that paper and run that through. And since it is double-sided, we get that beautiful stripe on the inside. So you can see that there's score lines created when you run that through the die cutting machine. We'll go ahead and quickly fold those and press those out with the bone folder. And then you have this pretty little scallop top on it. I love that. And it also cuts that little slit in there so that when you close up your matchbook, it'll slide right into place. So that's the basic design of our little matchbook. And again, we're going to do something different with it today. We're not going to use a matchbook die set, a stamp and die set. We're going to create our own design. So I thought this would be really fun to add a little fence to these 2 flaps on the front. And again, I had die cut 2 of those fences, but I really only needed the 1. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. And once I have it glued into place, I'll let it dry just a little bit and then we'll cut away the excess. This is just easier than trying to figure out the exact size. So I'm just going to glue that in place and then trim off any excess there. We'll let that dry for a second and then we'll place this second one on, the second half on. I'm putting little tiny dots of glue using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and I'm just going to butt those two up against each other. And here's where I'll just cut away that excess. I'm using my Holtz titanium shears. I love those for cutting away the excess on any of your projects. It's a nice long 9.5-inch shear, so it works really well. Then I thought I'd build a little scene on either side of the matchbook, right along the fences. And I thought I'd put a couple of the florals up against the fence. Now you could certainly put these florals behind the fence if you prefer that. I did play around with that a little bit off camera, but I decided I liked it this way a little bit better. And then I'm going to add one of those little bees right up here at the top. And look how cute this is. I just love that when you go to open this, you have this pretty scene already, so you're kind of anticipating what you're going to see when you open this up. So now I've got that little branch or that little stem, and I'm going to use that as my branch that's going to hold this up. So let's go ahead and glue that down. I'm kind of placing it in that corner there. I cut away some excess and I'm just going to place it in that corner and have it kind of hang down into the center. And then we'll glue this down. Now you could pop up a few things in here if you wanted to. I decided not to, but you certainly could use a thin foam adhesive if you wanted to add a little bit of dimension. But I thought I'd keep it flat because I do have that excess on those two flaps with the fencing and those florals. So I didn't want this to get too bulky. Now again, I'm going to add some of those florals to either side. And then I thought I would add a little bit of that floral down towards the left here at the bottom. So I'm going to just trim away any excess. You don't want any on the folds of your matchbook because you don't want to create any bulk there. So you can see I'm just checking that it's not going to be in the way of the fold on the left or the fold on the bottom. And then I've created a little tab. This is probably about 1/4 inch wide and maybe about 1 inch long. I created 2 of them and those are going to be for my little bees. So I wanted to show you, normally when you die cut your matchbooks, you get these little tabs, those little folding tabs right there that I'm pointing to. So we're just going to create our own. So I just took those little sections of cardstock and I folded them in half. I did use that 100-pound cardstock, and I'm going to place the glue on this one side, this one tab, and then that fold will be on the outer edge of my matchbook. So on that flap on the right, you can see how that looks here. And if you need to trim that down a little bit, you can easily cut that down to size and then just add a little bit more glue to the back side of this and then place this in the upper right hand corner of that right hand flap. And then that will lift up and pop open. So I'm just pressing that down just to make sure it secures. I'm just using my Cricut weeding tool to do that. You could certainly use your bone folder. And then I'm just playing around with it a little bit just to make sure that it opens up a little bit to give us some dimension. And then let's do the same thing for this other bee on the left hand side. So again, I've just folded that little tab in half. I'm going to place it on the bee, and then I've got the fold on the left hand side this time. And then we'll go ahead and glue that down. And you don't want to really go past the side of that flap. You want to kind of stay within that flap. And so that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and create a sentiment. I'm going back to the matchbook template set and I'm going to grab that little this little piece will hold our sentiment. So I'm going to again die cut it from that same pretty floral pattern paper, and then that will fold and create a little tab to put our sentiment on. And again, the score line is created, but first let's go ahead and do our stamping. And I thought it would be cute to stamp the word beautiful. So I've placed it in my MISTI stamp positioner. I've lined up that stamp. Let's go ahead and stamp that. And you can see how cute that looks. And then I'll take my bone folder, and on that score line that was created when we die cut it, I'm going to go ahead and fold that. Before I glue it to my card, I thought I would glue this little bee onto it as well. That will just add some dimension out in front of our little matchbook. So let's go ahead and add that adhesive and glue this in place. And now we can add the glue down along the bottom of this tab. I'm just making sure there's no extra glue there because you don't want it to stick to anything when this is folded closed. You do want to make sure you remove any excess adhesive. So I've got my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive again, and we'll place this tab right in front of that little notch, sort of towards the front. Again, you always want to keep checking to make sure nothing's in the way of that little notch or in the way of folding this up. Now with the Happy Bee Day, I thought it would be cute to stamp that sentiment right on that little scallop border at the top of our matchbook. So I'm going back to the MISTI stamp positioner. I'm just going to open this up flat, and then I'm going to do my stamping. It just makes it a lot easier because we do have some folds in it now. So it's going to be easier just to place this in the MISTI using those magnets to hold it in place nicely, and then let's go ahead and do our stamping. So I've got another piece of that same cardstock, and I'm going to tape that down, and we're going to create our matchbook envelope. Now this creates score lines, but you have a double score line here. It's to account for the dimension of our matchbook. And I find the easiest way to fold that second score line is to use a straight edge. So I use my acrylic stamping block, and then I just kind of press it along that straight edge until I get that second score line. I do find it a little tricky, so this to me helps me a lot get that lined up perfectly, and I did that for all four sides. And then I like to wait to put the adhesive on my envelope until my little matchbook is completed, and then I place it right inside just to make sure that it fits perfectly. And then I add some adhesive to that little tab. So I'm going to place some on the left and right side, and then we'll glue this down. You could certainly use some double-sided tape here if you prefer. And again, I just want to check and just make sure that I have plenty of room for that matchbook, and that's why I do that last. So let's go ahead, and I thought it'd be fun to add a little bee right here on this little notch. So I don't want to glue the notch down, and I don't want to glue that flap in place, but I do want to glue that bee just to cover that little notch area. So I'm just adding just enough glue, and then I'll place this down. And I thought that finished off the matchbook envelope really nicely. And then I've got my Wink of Stella clear glitter pen, and I'm going to add some clear glitter to the wings of all of my little bees. And that just makes everything pop. Even this little one on the front. And then I've got my white gel pen, and I'm going to add some highlights here and there on all the flowers, the bees, all these little items. And that'll, again, just make everything pop out a little bit more. And this was really fun to do. I just thought this idea that Renee had of creating a different scene using matchbooks, even though there's so many to choose from. I mean, there are just tons of matchbook sets available. But I thought this is kind of fun just to create your own using the template itself to create whatever you want. So this is a great way to use some of your other stamps from other collections and just kind of put things together. And all I did there was added a little bit of the anti-static powder and brushed the excess away in case there's any extra adhesives. So let's take a quick look at this. Just going to open that up, and I just love that that little fence is in the front. Before you even get it open, you have this cute little scene. And look how pretty this is. This is really fun to do, so I hope you give it a try. I know a lot of you have the matchbooks and love them just as much as I do. So if you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.